All right, let me just remember I gotta put myself there. The GameXplain jingle. What is up, everybody, and welcome to this GameXplain discussion. I'm talking to Daan today because Daan's played some games, and I think the people want to hear about them. So, Daan, first off, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Excellent. Okay, and second, I want to start with Plucky Squire. The Plucky Squire. Okay, here's what I know about this game, Daan. James Turner did some Pokemon designs. He was out here, and now he's working on this indie game, Plucky Squire. I see a little man jumping between a little 2D storybook game and out in the 3D world, away from the book, doing crazy stuff. What did you play?
So, actually, James and his assistant played for us. We actually had to sit with him in a room for 20 minutes, and he showed us the game, basically.
Excellent. Okay, so did you play like a level? Was it in the book? Was it in the world? What was it?
So, it was basically, the game takes place in a book, right? You play as Jod, the main character, who goes from 2D to 3D. But it's very intricate in how that is designed, because basically, it plays around with the book format a ton. For example, Jod walks around, comes into an obstacle that he can cross, jumps into 3D, basically goes to the other side of the level, goes back into the level, tries to fix it over there, jumps back out, jumps back in, and there's a lot of interplay there that basically becomes really intricate as you go along. And basically, the first things they showed us was basically, so the book has words, right? And you can basically strap some of those words away and replace them with others, basically changing the entire environment on the fly. And then as you
give me an example. Give me an example of that.
So, for example, say a big frog basically is blocking your pathway.
Yeah.
You have to find a different verb somewhere across the level that's basically in a different place of text. Strap that off, bring that along with you, and put that back in the different spot.
Got it. Okay.
But you can use every verb as you're allowed to. You can play with the wrong words if you want to, because every outcome has a different silly resolution that you see at the end.
Is this a verb rule? Also, you're saying verb, but the word that we used in this example was big. So so we're talking adjectives.
So adjectives, yeah.
Adjectives.
Yeah,
okay. So
yeah.
is it? I assume it's not like every adjective in this story is something that you can pick up and do something with. It's just like they select certain words, and those are kind of like your items, your pickups that you can manipulate in the world.
Yeah, that's basically one of the major things you can do in the 2D areas. But you also go to different areas of the map and basically solve a puzzle there that basically opens up the other side of the level.
I see. Yeah.
But it's, as you go across those specific intricate parts of the 2D world, or more the overhead world, rather, because you are in a book, there are specific minigames that you play by, for example, shooting down these gigantic bugs with a bow and arrow. There are specific action scenes that basically break up the regular level gameplay, but even then, later in the level, we actually got to see you going into the 3D landscape basically as Jod, which moving for the 3D landscape as Jod is actually really interesting, because I honestly thought straight up this would just be 3D gameplay and that's it. But what they do is they really had to jump through different kinds of paper, for example, party hangers, for example, dropping down into a different piece of paper and coming back out.
Wait, like streamers hanging from the ceiling? So you can. Yeah. Oh, I see. So your method of friction with this world is not just the book. It's anything that's paper is you put that in, you go, oh, I can do something with that.
Yes.
That's pretty, okay, that's neat, yeah.
For example, the walls of a castle that you go up to are basically the walls are made of paper. You go back into the book and avoid enemies, then go around them. And basically how they do it is to make sure that you go the right way, is to have an enemy pop in from the left side of the screen, so you know that you can go there, basically. Then you drop.
Smart.
Yeah. So then you basically drop back out, climb more, and then at the end, you're basically go back into a different kind of paper. This time, you're going against a actual trading card in an RPG-like battle, which you actually have to defeat the character to get their item to use in an actual 2D portion of a level.
I understand. Okay, I see how these things all kind of work together. It's funny, I feel like you see the little storybook, the 2D gameplay, and you think it's one kind of game, but really it's a different kind of thing, and it kind of reminds me of like old Zelda games, where you're thinking about the environment in that sense. Let me ask you this. Is this... How do I want to say this? Is this... What kind of video game is this? And when I ask that question, I mean, like, sometimes I think of, like, your Kirby, where your Kirby is not really trying to, like, really, like, give the player a lot of friction. It's not trying to challenge you in that way. And I think the fun of a Kirby a lot of the time is this novelty pops up for 10 seconds, and you go, oh, I'm going to play with this for a little while, and then maybe you move on to the next thing. And then there's like your Zeldas, like I mentioned before, where it's kind of like a big puzzle box, and you're trying to figure out exactly where this goes and that, and this tool to do that thing. Yeah. And I guess what this comes down to is partly that, but also how fun is the moment to moment, like when you jump. Is that fun when you swing a sword? Like when you're like, how are just the base actions in this game?
I think every base action is basically designed to be unique because like every portion of the level felt different than what came before. And it feels very much like a Kirby sense, right? Like there's a small novelty and it goes on to the next novelty. But it isn't as simple as a Kirby game. It is far more intricate in what you actually have to do. Like one of the main end sections before you move into the book, like those party hangers, like once in my background, like the party hangers, you mostly move back down to the portion where the book is, and then you jump back into the book, and it looks so cool as a set piece. And I think that's what I really like about it. The set pieces are so uniquely designed in a way.
Cool. Yeah, I hear you on that. I think like when I look at like the real life aspect of the game, like jumping into the 3D world, it reminds me a lot of recent Nintendo release Pikmin 4. And like being in that kind of like house environment. But I agree with you that the novelty of the Plucky Squire has not worn off on me yet. Every time I see a trailer, I'm like, oh man, still looks cool. Still looks neat. Yeah. Do you know anything about this? Did I imagine that this game had 2-player co-op?
You likely imagined it. Yeah.
I imagined that. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. All right, that's fine.
It is very much a single-player game. You could obviously like see some movement from the other 2 AI played characters that move around you in the 2D areas. Okay. But those are solely in the 2D areas. They don't come along with you in the 3D areas. They actually just stay in the book, and they sometimes say, "Oh, we're wondering when you would come back."
Wow. Okay. I want to point out that the Steam description for this game says that you'll be solving puzzles, boxing badgers, and flying with a jetpack. And I feel like this is speaking to what you were just telling me. This kind of novelty on novelty on novelty, looking really good. Yeah. I'm starting to get a sense of I think what this game is. Do you have a release date for this?
So recently it got delayed to 2024, which is a bummer. Sure. But I also think that it likely can be. It should be as possibly best as it can be. I mean, in addition to James Turner, like another one, One Bit Beyond, who is a developer who did a bunch on original Curve games, but also on some Nintendo published titles, which is I'm not sure what it's called in America again. Fluidity. It's called Fluidity, which was on WiiWare and 3DS, which I also really enjoyed. And he is very good at like making intricate like Metroidvania type games. And I think it's taking some inspiration from all bits and pieces, which I really like.
Excellent. Okay, great. Daan, if I had to push you, I'm pressing you up against a brick wall right now, and I'm saying you are in the ear of the developer, and you can tell them one criticism, one thing to fix, one note, one change that you would make to this game. Just one little thing. It could be a little thing, it could be a big thing. What would you say?
I think the role of the 2 AI control characters is a bit underplayed. Like, they're basically standing there a little bit. And I'm not sure necessarily how you would fix that, right? Because they do have some very funny lines. They realize they are just a character in a book after Jot basically find that out. And they're kind of overreacting to it, which is really funny. But outside of that, they don't seem to add much to the overall beats of the game, which I do think is somewhat of a bummer.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, sometimes I think in any media we realize that something is a device, and it sounds like the device of those characters is for the color commentary, is for that just having something in your ear keeping you entertained, which I understand and appreciate. But you know, you want that synergy.
Sure.
All right, well, thank you. Let's move on to our next game. I want to talk about Infinity Strash, Dragon Quest: The Adventures of Dai. Here's what I know about this one. First off, Dragon Quest 11S was my first ever Dragon Quest game, and I loved that game. I loved that game.
That's a good game.
Had the time of my life. What a jolly ride.
Yeah.
Yes. This one is, I know it's not turn-based combat. It's like action combat. And I know that it's, I believe, based on like a popular anime, maybe? And
both anime and manga.
Anime and manga, there you go.
Yeah.
So follows like that kind of story. What was your sense of this game? What I like Dragon Quest 11S. Should I take a look at this?
Here's my honest answer. I don't think so.
Okay.
But I also think thought it was more fun. So here's the thing. I'm a big Dragon Quest nut. So when this came up in the schedule, I was like, oh my god, this sounds interesting. I'm not sure if I will like it, but it sounds interesting. Because like Dragon Quest doesn't experiment as much as I would think of other series in that regard. Like it does some action-y type games, like for example with Builders and with the Dragon Quest Monsters games, but even that are still somewhat in like the long spectrum of RPGs.
Totally.
So the only thing they really have done is Warriors, but even then still had RPG mechanics in their Warriors games, so I digress. But this is a full-on action game, based on, I would say, in anime-wise, they said the first 40 episodes about roughly of that anime, which is it's a long show. If you want to watch the entirety of Crunchyroll, you can. I'm not sure if you want to, but it's a good story nonetheless. It's a good story. But what they're trying to do here is that there are basically two modes. There is the basic story mode, where it follows the actual story of the anime and manga, with all the character beats, proper voice acting from the original voice actors, bunch of bosses, bunch of different more arena type levels where you fight enemies and go through a bunch of dungeons, basically. That is fun. I think where for me the continuous gameplay comes in that I really enjoyed about it. So they have separated like more roguelike mode, where basically you start from level 1 with like completely under-leveled characters and go from story to story, basically building up additional stats, additional weaponry, additional stats for your characters, which you can then bring back to the main campaign.
Wait a second. This is interesting. I like this idea. I think this is fun. Wait, so okay. How is the... So I'm assuming most of what you're doing in this game is running from place to place, essentially just doing this action combat over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Is it interesting, fun, varied? What are the powers like? Yeah.
Yeah, it's I would say it's about what sometimes a Warriors game would be, but also it has more combos to it and much more oriented with special attacks. So there are far more meters to build up, far more interesting combos to do. But it's still basically 3 or 4 action buttons that you use to do most of the actions in the game. But like the base combat in itself feels a bit more solidly built overall.
Okay. Can you like switch to a different party member, or are you this one guy the whole time? Oh, you can?
Yes.
All right. I always love that. And then they're like, I assume they're like very different in... I feel like maybe the Warriors comparison is a good one. They like use different weapons, they have different powers, that kind of...
It's very D&D, like I said. There's a warrior, a brute, and a magician.
Okay. And are you switching to them in the middle of combat?
You can, absolutely, you can. As long as they're available. Sometimes, for story reasons, some of them aren't available. For example, one character, the female character, gets captured very early on in the game and goes through somewhat of a transformation. So during that period, you cannot play as her. But for the rest, you can easily switch between any characters you particularly want to play as.
Is this game super linear? Like, is each thing you're doing in the story, like you're following a singular path?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They also the levels are pretty compact. Like they don't go on forever. They're pretty compact with like a 5-6 minute span at most.
Okay. And yeah, this is such a funny game to me because I've seen a couple of trailers for it, and I actually think it looks better than I expect it to every time, but it doesn't have the buzz. It doesn't have Dragon Quest hype. It feels like
for sure, yeah.
Yeah. And I gotta say, even from Dragon Quest, I will say I'm a little more looking forward to December's Dragon Quest Monsters: The Dark Prince. I think that game looks crazy. Have you seen this?
Yes.
Oh 100%. Yeah, dude. Kind of like some Pokemon vibes. All about it.
Monsters has always been the Pokemon-like franchise of Dragon Quest, so absolutely, yeah.
Cool.
But I will say, Infinity Strash has me far more interested than I was before I came in.
Okay.
Which is honestly the best case scenario for any game when you go to a convention. But I'm interested in trying it for sure. Like the roguelike mode has me really intrigued by how it works.
Me too. Like, that was the most. That pulled me in the most from what you said because I feel like adding that into a game that it has the story, it has the campaign, and we're giving you this extra thing. That to me that rules. Did you play this on Switch?
So no.
Okay. Yeah.
So they basically had only PlayStation 5 kits available to play on. I also played it surprisingly on Xbox because it was at the Xbox booth.
Oh, nice. Thanks, Xbox. Yeah, okay. Well, I will say I'm a little curious about how it's going to run on Switch. I pulled it up and I'm looking at like some screenshots and stuff on the side here. It doesn't look too crazy. I feel like the Switch can handle this. This
for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also think that Square Enix is very good at optimizing their games.
I think that's a fair point. I agree. All right, cool. So, is there any chance you think I start this game up, turn it on, I've got no prior knowledge that campaign mode based on this manga, based on this anime, is there any chance it pulls me in?
It tells the entire story. Like, from the bits I've seen, it basically goes for all the story beats. So if you want to skip, after playing the game, want to skip the first 40 episodes of the anime, you can, I feel like. Because they basically are...
Okay. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I know what you're saying, Daan, because that's a good vibe, actually. If it pulls me in so much, I'm like, all right, I want to know what happens. I pull up that anime, skip all the way to where I pick it up.
Episode 41, yeah.
I'm having this experience right now where I've only ever seen, I have no experience with it otherwise, the first 10 episodes of One Piece. I was sick like 2 months ago, and I just turned it on. I didn't even know about the live action version. I'm like, I'm just gonna watch some One Piece. I got like 10 episodes in, and now I'm 2 episodes in to the live action one, and I'm like, oh, this is nice. I'm gonna get to the end of this, and then I'm gonna come back, skip ahead in the cartoon. I'm gonna be good to go. So maybe I do a similar vibe here.
Shout out to the live action One Piece.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
It's goofy. But I like it. I like how they can't help but say pirate every 3 sentences. Okay. Let's move right along. Yeah. Oh, wait, no. Daan, I'm pushing you up against the brick wall. And you got to give one note, criticism, piece of advice to the developers of Infinity Strash Dragon Quest, The Adventure of Dai. What do you tell them?
Maybe make some more open areas. Like, the only place where there are really open areas to explore is when you fight a boss.
Got it. Cool. I like that advice. Sometimes you just want to walk into a town and talk to people.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. All right. Our next game is Star Ocean, the second story R?
Yes.
Okay. I am a big HD 2D Square Enix fan. I will pretty much glug any game down that they put out in that style. Octopath Traveler 2, glug. Like, I love this stuff. Do I need to play this?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, this is a remake of the second ever Star Ocean game, which gets, I think, for the first time, English voices. So it's now completely voice acted. So every scene is now voice acted in that game. But they have... So for example, if you want, so for context for people who never played this, there is the original version, there is a PSP version, and now the version on PlayStation 5 and Switch. So if you want, for example, you have some weird nostalgia for, say, the fan-translated version of the PSP one, you can actually use the PSP art when you interact with characters.
That's kind of neat. Yeah, like, I won't do that, but it's kind of neat that it's, like, I'll, like, look at it for a second, and that's kind of fun. So it's taking, okay, so this is an interesting comparison, I think. Like, I see a lot of criticism of Persona 3 Reload for kind of, for pretty much, like, not doing this. For kind of, like, taking some things from the original games and saying, no, we're not doing that. Like, like there's the version where you can be a female main character. Like, you can't do that in Reload. And this is, I feel like this is maybe going the other direction. This is saying, no, you could switch over to these things if you want from these different versions. It's kind of cool.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Really quick, broad strokes. This is an RPG.
Yes.
Am I right in thinking that this is not turn-based combat?
You pick attacks, but it plays around in a far more actiony sense. So it's sort of halfway, basically.
Okay. I was fooled by the trailer then, because the combat looks insane.
It is real action, but you still choose those actions. So I would say it's halfway between the two. Like, not fully there and fully there, but it tries to be more of its unique thing, which I do really appreciate.
Okay, what is this game doing that makes it... Okay, you've got your triangle strategy, you've got your Octopath Traveler, you know, what is Star Ocean? What makes this game different? What's the pitch? What's, like, the log line for this?
I think more it tells a one-go cohesive narrative from beginning to end. So basically, you have two options character-wise, which is Claude and Reyna.
Yeah.
Claude is a character from another world. I mean, likely Earth, but it's from another world. Who crash lands basically on Reyna's planet. And you can either begin playing it from Reyna or Claude's perspective. And from there, you start going on this adventure basically to find out what's basically holding this world back. And it's sort of mysterious. You're not really sure where it's going. But what I remember from, like, the early versions of this game is that it goes in a bunch of really weird and crazy directions, and the monster fights are really insane about it. But what it really enhances now, especially with the style they've chosen, are the effects, because the effects are more in the combat were more arbitrary, so you were far more 2D and like flat. So you would know what you're getting out of it. But with the HD 2D style they've chosen, like, the entire game pops a ton. Like, incredible ton. So I actually got to play this on Switch.
Yes.
And it looks really good on the OLED. Holy crap.
Excellent. Okay, I felt like in the Nintendo Direct this game was in, that this was a stunner. That really stood out to me. I was like, man, even among the HD 2D games, I think because of what you're saying, a lot of the effects, it like made me notice it. And even just like looking at the eShop page, some of these screenshots, there's like one of these characters in like a city, and I'm like, oh my god, this looks awesome. Like, man, I want to experience this. But okay, so you were talking about picking a protagonist at the beginning of the game, and you said, like, okay, this one is like from this other planet or whatever. Is the other one the same circumstance, or is it like a completely different situation if you pick the other protagonist?
So Reyna is from the planet that basically Claude crash lands on.
Wow, so they are really different.
Yeah. So and basically Reyna sees Claude as this gigantic savior from another world, which was kind of like said in like old written tales. And basically the entire family in her village basically goes along with it. And Claude doesn't really know where he really ended up. I think the opening is actually really charming and hilarious in that sense. Because you have this sort of mismatch of characters that come from completely different backgrounds, not really knowing what they really have on one another.
Right.
But I think as you go through the game, which I this game has a really good relationship build system and has like various endings also to play with. It makes you also intrigued where the various characters and where their relationships are basically going, which like adds to the intrigue of this entire game.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I think it looks awesome. I feel like the English voice acting, the fact that like I really like how the character portraits will like talk. They're not just like static portraits. That is so neat. Yeah. I guess so I guess the one thing I'm really curious about then is the combat, because again, looking at it, it looks like it's moving so fast and so much stuff is happening.
So it is, in a sense, it's real-time action because you have to choose your actions. Like it's individual actions, but the way that they interact with the enemies goes really fast-paced and heavy. Once again, it's not really an easy way to really describe this. I would call it way more actiony in that sense, but also like it is more structured in the way that you choose your attacks.
Is it like Xenoblade?
I mean, even a bit, but even then, I don't know how that really well describes it.
Okay, all right, because just like looking at it, I'm like seeing the party, I'm seeing like the break words come up, and I'm they're just doing all these attacks. I'm kind of like, man, this feels a little Xenoblade-y. But okay, well, I am excited to check it out for myself for sure. Is in the world of like RPG stories, would you say that this is like more on the Octopath end of the spectrum than it is on the Xenoblade one, or is it a little more?
I would say it's a bit more Xenoblade in the sense that it's more structured, but but the openness towards the end is more like how modern RPGs do it, where you can basically go in different directions and different endings. But I think what makes this game so good is the overall cast. Like, outside of the main two characters, there's a bunch of different characters. I don't want to spoil them because it's better to experience them when the game comes out later this year. But one of my favorite characters, it's a guy who basically is sometimes taking over by these two snakes that are across his body and basically influence all of his thoughts and feelings. And it's such a weird and interesting character. And he wants to be like exiled from these beings on his shoulders.
What's that guy's name? Do you know it off the top of your head?
No, unfortunately not.
I must know what he looks like. I'm literally typing in Star Ocean Snake Guy right now and hoping it pops up.
It's Ashton.
Ashton. Okay. Star Ocean Ashton.
An unhappy swordsman possessed by a two-headed dragon.
Oh my god. Viewers, this is not what I expected at all. I thought these were going to be like little tiny dragon boys. These are big dragon boys. I kind of dig this. I feel like he's got kind of like an angel devil thing going on here with his conscience. Yeah, that's kind of fun. Okay, that's a good time. All right, Daan, that was exactly how you sell me on this video game like this. All right, there's this man with these two dragons in his thoughts. Oh my god. All right, that sounds great. Daan, you gotta give the Star Ocean developers a piece of advice. You gotta whisper in their ear. Tell them before the game comes out on November 2nd, 2023. You can do this one thing. Do this one thing for me. What is it?
Actually promote this game.
Oh, they can't do it. They can't do it. They tell you immediately. I'm so sorry. That can't make it in. See you November 2nd. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we'll. Here's what I got for you. Maybe it'll appear in another Nintendo Direct. We got TGS coming up soon. I'm sure it'll be there. So maybe we'll hear more about this game. I will say, every so often I see somebody in the games industry who's like, Star Ocean should be a big deal. So maybe it'll catch fire. You know?
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully.
Okay.
Guys, there's a guy with two dragons on his shoulders.
Exactly. How could you want more? I don't know. But all right.
Okay.
This might get cut out, and if it does, we'll skip to the end. But if not, the last game we're talking about is Foamstars, the game that's not Splatoon. You're a couple of adult weirdos engaging in a kind of team-based battle royale. It seems more about killing each other than it does about getting turf, and you can use the foam to shape the environment, unlike Splatoon.
Right.
Seems like character classes are part of this game. Am I right on so far?
So can I start with a hot take on this? It's nothing like Splatoon.
No, I know. Listen, obviously it's nothing like Splatoon, but I made a whole video about how it's nothing like Splatoon for GameXplain, actually. Please check that video out.
Please check the video out.
So, Daan, was it fun?
I really enjoyed it, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, what's fun about it?
So every character plays different with 3 different attacks to play with.
Okay.
So it's the characters are not just for show. Like every character has they're either offensive, defensive, or they are more support-like. Like every character has 3 different attacks that make them statistics like so important. Like one they shoot foam like more like a Gatling gun, like constantly overflow, so their resources quickly run out and then they have to fill back up. Another one.
How do you fill back up?
I think you just stand there and wait.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And then another one. Basically, it's more of a shooting rifle where you basically aim and then shoot it. So you have to press it, let go, and then press it again. But kind of a lob and then land it on a specific enemy. And then the special attacks basically play around with basically surfing into their opponent and basically blasting them off the field. For example, there's one special attack that basically causes gigantic waves of foam, which basically can trap like 2 opponents if you're really, really handy with that stuff. And basically surf onto them and then basically throw them off the field. Hey, you scored points.
Would it be fair to categorize the attacks as like you have a primary fire, an alternative fire, and a special attack?
Yes.
Okay, that's cool. That helps me understand it. In terms of movement, so you're doing a lot of, it looks like third-person shooter stuff. In Splatoon, you turn into a squid, you go into the ink, you get enhanced movement. Is there anything like that here? It's
basically the surf motion. So basically, one of the offensive moves that you have to basically throw opponents off the field is surfing. But you can also use that as a defensive move where you can basically move out of the way and opponents get really close to you. And that's the basic principles of movement. So you can walk around, and every character has specific speed according to their weapons and how they move across the field. But if you're really in a pinch, then basically the surf is your best friend. Because once you get fully surrounded with foam, you're basically static in place, and either you get splattered off the field. Splattered, I say Splatoon versus for some reason. Yeah. Or you get saved by a teammate who surfs into you, or uses their own gun to basically do your color foam onto you, so it basically negates the other color's foam.
Got it. What is the goal of the game?
So basically, the game mode we played, it basically consists of 2 parts. So first you have to remove 5 opponents off the field, which creates a star player. You have to then defend the star player. If the star player gets splattered, it creates another star player until like the star player can basically get a hold of the game, and then basically that ends the game.
Okay. Would you say that's like the standard mode?
Yeah, that's the mode we played, yeah, for sure.
That strikes me as a little odd. It seems involved. It seems like you have to know what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Is that okay? Was it easy to pick up and understand and you knew what you needed to do immediately, or was it a little weird?
It's more came down to the characters. Like honestly, for me, like the basic mechanics are not that hard to understand because it's shooting, surfing, and dodging. That's basically where it comes down to. But I think some characters are basically better suited to others. Like the one that with the lob shots, I thought was super fun to play. Had a blast doing it.
Yeah.
One with the Gatling gun, I felt like I was running out of steam like extremely quickly and didn't feel like I was contributing to the match very much. So it basically depends on the character you're using throughout the match.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, you might not be able to answer this question, but do your best. Do you feel like this is a game that if I show up and I am the sweatiest Foamstars player of all time, I am just ripping roaring through this game, could I carry a team? Or
yes.
Okay.
100%. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Like during my first match of my hour-long play session, I felt like I was carrying the team with that lob weapon because I basically was dropping bombs that the other team was really not ready to participate on. So they were basically scrambling and trying to find a solution for themselves.
Interesting. Okay. I only ask because I've been playing a lot of Exoprimal lately. Weird game. But I've been playing that, and it's funny. That game I think is less about like being cracked individually, and it actually is more about like, all right, we have to make sure we have a balanced team that can carry out the objective.
For sure, yeah.
More than just somebody, you know, being nasty, getting headshots or whatever. And I think I like both of those kinds of games. Yeah, I think they both have their place. So I was just kind of curious which one it felt more like. Did you get any sense that there was more to this game than the multiplayer?
So they said in our presentation there was going to be some sort of single-player campaign, but they didn't elaborate on it.
Interesting. Very curious what that could be.
Yeah.
When you were playing it, did you feel like the characters you were playing as could be in like a Splatoon-like single-player thing where you're like platforming and doing challenges, or does it not really fit?
Some of them for sure. Like I think that because of the individual weapons, I've sometimes like unsure where they would basically place in a single-player campaign.
Yeah.
Like, for example, some of the weapons could be really useful to shoot enemies afar and basically clear a path for you, while others are far more defensive and supportive-based, which makes them really hard to place in that specific sense.
Got it. Okay. So Foamstars, is that coming out this year? It can't be.
No, I think it's coming out next year.
Yeah, I think you're right. Okay, so Foamstars, I'm sure we'll hear more about it in the future. I am intrigued with Foamstars. There's something about it. I think it is visually interesting. I like character classes. I think the idea of a more like party shooter, which is how it describes itself, a party shooter. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there anything about this that I'm missing? Anything about this that you just thought was cool that caught your attention?
We're not missing anything particular. It was a pretty straightforward demo with one game mode with all the characters.
Right.
I mean, one cool thing is that they have a ton of different battle music, like a ton. So I was actually the controlling host of the game. Okay. So they basically guided me through the options, and there were like 25 different songs for the lobby music. Like every different like musical style you can think of: funk, disco, pop, everything.
All right. Well, it's funny the things that sometimes get done ahead of time. All right, cool. Yeah. So yeah. All right, great. So that's Foamstars. I want to see like the character select screen. I feel like that's going to tell me a lot about this game. This game to me, I feel like it's like a battle pass game. Like it should have a battle pass and how good.
Yeah.
I'm not totally anti battle pass. It's just it has to be a good one, you know? Because that tells me something. If there's something I can work towards, I'm like, okay, maybe I want to do this. Some games have these Exoprimal, awful battle pass. I'm not interested. So I don't know.
I mean, my problem with that is that Square Enix doesn't usually have the best record when it comes to battle pass.
Oh, really?
I mean, Chocobo GP
Racing.
Chocobo GP had a horrible existence for that 1 year.
And it's gone now. Right, it's gone. They took it out.
You can still play it, but they basically removed all the battle passes and make everything free to play. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, well, Foamstars, maybe you took the hint. Maybe you're going to get it. You're going to figure it out. Daan, you've got the Foamstars director in your ear. Jeremy Foam himself is looking to you. Jeremy Foam is looking to you for advice. What do you tell him?
Listen, Jim, I need you to do this. Make all the characters correctly in balance because some don't feel like they're fully there yet. Give them more time to cook.
All right, that was hard for Jim to hear. He did all the balancing himself, so he is going to take that to heart. Okay, that's gonna be okay. All right, thank you very much. Thank you for that advice. All right, great. Well, with that, I think we've covered it. We've covered the games that we came here to talk about today. Daan, thank you so much. The Plucky Squire, Infinity Strash, Star Ocean, Foamstars. If you could snap your fingies together and have one of those games in a box right in front of you right now, which one are you picking?
Oh, Plucky Squire.
Okay, that's just okay. All right, because you know that is. You know Plucky Squire is going to be good, I feel like, and you're interested in it. But does your curiosity overcome knowing, because sometimes like I'm thinking about Marvel Spider-Man right now. I know that game's gonna be good. I don't need it. I don't need it in front of me right now.
Sure.
But like Rocksteady's Suicide Squad. That could be bad. But my curiosity gets the best of me, so I go give it to me. But still, you're putting the Plucky Squire at the top.
Yeah, for sure. I think all of them are at least somewhat interested in. I wouldn't be talking about them if I wasn't interested in them in the first place, right?
Oh well, there you go. All right.
Yeah, but it's, to me, like with Infinity Trash that comes out at the end of this month, so I don't need to wait for that much longer. With Star Ocean. That's going to be one of my big November games. Cannot wait for it.
Okay.
But I already feel like, for me, it's a known entity. So for me, it's purely playing something that I think is very comfy.
Yeah.
Foamstars is like the big wild card that I could have chosen as well.
Okay.
That was sort of the toss-up, basically, between that and the Plucky Squire.
All right. I will say I thought it was quite funny when I thought you said Infinity Trash. And I... Oh man, somebody, it won't be us, but somebody is going to review that game, and that will be their subheading, because they just can't resist.
100%.
Infinity Trash. It's so funny.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you everybody for tuning in. Let me know in the comments below which of these games you are more excited for. If you're a Star Ocean veteran and you're like, Jake, you got to play this game. Remember 2 Dragon Man? Like, please sell me on it even further, because I love hearing about this kind of stuff. But once again, thank you for tuning in. Daan, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.